Teaching is a great job. In my opinion, it is the greatest job. You're with children all day long. Children will not judge you when you make mistakes. Children will help correct you when you misspeak yourself. Even if you were never the best student yourself growing up, that does not mean that God can't use you to be a good teacher.
Teaching is a wonderful profession because you have all of these children and young people that are entrusted to you for many hours, and you have the full support of their parents and the support of the community at large and what you're doing during that school day. And while that's a lot of responsibility and a lot of pressure, it is tremendously rewarding and satisfying. You'll go to bed very tired, but you'll wake up fresh and ready to start again. And you'll meet so many new people, so many new families, and build so many relationships that you'll never regret it.
Teaching is the best job in the world because you get to spend your day with a number of children, maybe young, maybe old, and each one of them comes with unique abilities and backgrounds and talents and dreams, and you get to spend all day with them every day, and they will challenge you, they will astonish you, they will inspire you to work so hard for them. And something that just really hit me last year was I thought that I was a pretty loving person, but they just opened my heart like I never knew was possible. And you love those kids with all of your being. You do. They're so special.
Teaching is the best profession because you can see the thanks that a child has in their heart.
I'll start by saying this. A teacher does not have to be perfect. I've learned that. You will make mistakes. You learn from them and move on. God's grace is new every day. But a teacher does have to be godly, mature, and patient. Teachers also have to love God's children and see them as gifts. And if you are godly, mature, and patient, God will use you to make a difference in the lives of those children. It also doesn't hurt to be very organized. And whether or not you are, you will learn to be flexible. Because interruptions happen, you will learn to be flexible also.
A teacher must be someone who loves God and then loves his children who are entrusted into his care for 6 to 7 hours a day. A teacher should care about the subjects that he teaches so that he makes them as interesting and as exciting as possible, always in the light of God being the creator. And a teacher should be able to teach, never just by words, but also by example.
A teacher has to be a lot of things. They have to be kind, they have to be patient, you have to be firm, you have to be loving. But I think overall, you have to be passionate about teaching. You have to love to learn, you have to love your students, and you have to be willing to put the work in. It's a demanding job. It's emotionally exhausting some days. It can be physically exhausting, but it's so rewarding. And when you really work hard and you love those students and you love your work, you'll see the reward.
A teacher needs to be caring and needs to love their students. A teacher needs to love their students more than they love the subjects that they're teaching.
I became a teacher initially because I loved school. School was my favorite place in the whole world. I loved to learn, I loved hearing new things, and I couldn't imagine really being anywhere else. For a long time, my mom kind of pushed me to teach, and I always pushed back. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. And then I did have a speaker at a career day in high school who talked about being a teacher and the challenges and the rewards of it, and it pretty much convinced me on the spot that that was what I wanted to do. And once I got into it in college, I knew that this was going to be the right thing for me.
Well, I'm thinking about why I became a teacher. I'd have to go back to my junior high days, and I had some teachers that were very enthusiastic and made learning fun, and were willing to get off topic once in a while, and I really enjoyed that, and that's kind of where it started for me. thought that would be the type of setting I'd want to be in. And it was the humor and the willingness to just be off the wall that really attracted me to being in the classroom.
I was inspired to be a teacher in 4th grade, and when I had a teacher myself that made learning so engaging and fun that I wanted to be at school every day. And she loved and cared for all of those students, including myself. And ever since 4th grade, I knew that I wanted to be a teacher just like her.
I would say I became a teacher because of 2 reasons. The impact that other teachers had on me as a student, I would say especially in junior high and in high school, and the encouragement of them, I think seeing in me a passion and love for learning, so they encouraged me to continue to pursue that. And I would say also, in my last few years of high school, but especially maybe my first year into college too, interacting with the students and getting to be active with them helped me to know I want to do this my entire life, interact with students, and I can say God was calling me in those instances or using those situations to help me know and understand that teaching was definitely the calling that He wanted me to pursue.
I became a teacher because I wanted to engage myself in a job that was filled with meaning. I didn't always want to be a teacher. In fact, I resisted that urge for most of my high school years, and I went to become a mechanic. And I was at college to be a mechanic when I had a professor there who just lit a fire in me for education and the work a teacher has developing relationships with students. And that is what was the catalyst for me to enter the teaching field.
The type of impact that I can have as a teacher is much greater than I even realize. I taught younger kids in my first few years of teaching, and at that age their teacher is an all-star. Teacher is number one. It doesn't matter what the teacher says, they think he or she is the greatest thing. Then as they get older, things change a little bit, and you have to realize that they don't tell you that they appreciate what you're doing, but it's amazing how much they do appreciate what you're doing, even though they don't tell you directly. And I had a senior a couple years ago where this student was very quiet all semester, decent academically, didn't say much in class, said hello to me, and then at the end of the semester I got a card from her where she expressed such appreciation for the class and enjoyed it so much, and it just blew me away, and it made me realize that even though that's not the case all the time, the students appreciate more than they tell the teacher, especially in the high school level. And I would add also to that impact is not necessarily found right away. The impact can take years, where a student might come back to the teacher down the road and express appreciation for how they dealt with the situation, or just generally how they led them in a particular class.
And if I think again about the best teachers I've ever had, those are the teachers who were able to seamlessly integrate a wonder and awe for God's creation into the material that they were teaching. And that to me is critically important, is having that influence of teaching students how to think about God all the time and what they're learning. That's number one. But then there's also instances where you have students who come in with very specific needs, whether they be emotional needs, whether they be challenges in learning. They've struggled their whole life perhaps with education, and now here they are in your classroom. And being able to be a comforting guide and mentor to that student, to be able to show them that the gifts that they've been given are sufficient to find a path in life that God will give them, and to teach them how to be patient and to cultivate those gifts no matter what they are, is a gift that you have as a teacher to really help find the pathway, or help a student find their pathway in life, and encourage them with what gifts they've been given by God.
I pray every morning, fervently every morning, that God uses me for the good and for the growth of the students. And if this is the case, then I give glory to God. My experience with my own children is that the most important factor in whether a student likes or desires to do well in a subject is the teacher. And the most important factor, even in the overall impression that a student has of school, is the teacher. So important is the role of a teacher in the lives of his students.
You have a great impact on these students because you are training them to walk as a Reformed Christian in the kingdom. You have many callings within the kingdom. For example, if you are working out in the field, if you are person that mows grass, or if you're a person that builds houses, you can see your fruit in one day. If you're a bricklayer, you can see your fruit within 2 weeks. As a teacher, you don't see your fruit until sometimes 10 years, 20 years later.
I remember one time I had taught the kids in writing what alliteration was, and they could find it in a poem and they could find the sounds. And then one morning we were just singing, starting our day, and they sang Psalter number 1. And all of a sudden one of the kids was like, "It's alliteration, it's alliteration." And I was like, what are they talking about? We're not writing. And they said, "He who shuns the scorner's seat." And I was like, they got it, they remembered it. They saw those repetitive S sounds, and I don't know, it gave me goosebumps because I thought, okay, that's it. They're taking what I taught them and they're applying it now in a different part of life, and that's the whole goal.
I love to see my students grow. By spring break, I always notice that you can tell a difference in not only the height of the students, but also in the things that they have learned and are able to do, and in their social skills, in their self-control. So my favorite thing that I love to see is the students grow.
What I love to see as a teacher is children who grow up in the Lord. We pray in the baptism form that God will govern His children throughout their life. And as a teacher, you can see that firsthand, that God guides a child to whatever calling that they're in. For example, I love astronomy. Each year I have a star party with my children. It's a joy to me to see the children stand in awe at God's creation of the planets, creation of the stars, nebula. And I often have students come up to me and say, "Thank you, Mr. Feenstra."
What I love to see as a teacher is the students have a passion and love for learning. So they might learn about a new subject and they're going home and reading about it in books or the internet, and they come back and tell you, the next day, "Hey, I learned about this." So a thirst for knowledge, a thirst for learning, and then all of that in the sphere of God's world. As they see in God's creation around them, in the cosmos, God's handiwork, when they can apply what they've taken in the classroom and connect it with God's world, that's what really inspires me.
Teaching is unlike any other job. If you think about it, a mechanic or a lawyer or someone with a job that they go to every day, they usually know what to expect, what's on their agenda for the day, and a lot of times they even know what they want as an outcome for their day. Teaching, you go to school and every day is very different. You never know what to expect, and you get to spend the whole day with a group of children. Not many other jobs get to do that.
And I would say the second thing is that you have a tremendous support system around you in that job, where you have the support of other teachers, your administrator, the school board, the parents. They value what you're doing, they stand behind what you're doing, and that's what makes it unique.
Students are more than just a brain. Students are more than just an empty bucket that needs to be filled. There's the old phrase, education isn't the filling of an empty bucket, but it's the lighting of a fire. And we light students on fire.
I also like to think of my students as the precious jewels in the crown of the King, because they are God's children, and they are covenant children, and they are precious in His sight. And if they are valued so highly by God, then I'm reminded how highly I must value them as well.
Students are more than just what you see. Every student that comes into your classroom is so different. So they have unique interests, strengths, weaknesses, besetting sins even. Every student has their own unique emotional life and home life. There is so much that makes up each individual child that it is my goal as a teacher to love every single one of them exactly the way God made them.
Students are more than just little humans that we have to try to stuff and cram as much knowledge in them every day as we are able. They're God's children, and this will affect the way we teach, why we teach, and how we teach. And seeing them in this light, a teacher will make sure that school is a safe place for every student. There shouldn't be a single student that's afraid to come to school because they're worried about getting bullied or belittled on a daily basis. A student needs to know that their teachers love them and that teacher will do everything they can in the classroom, in the hallway, in the gym, on the playground to make school a safe place.
Students are more than just a number or a sibling of somebody else you've taught in the past. They are unique in their personality and their gifts, and when people ask me what I teach, and inevitably when I tell them I'm a teacher, they ask what I teach, and I answer with I teach students, and that sometimes throws them off because they want to know the subject area that I teach, but primarily I teach students, and they're all unique, and I have to look at each of them differently each day. You know, everybody's work, they have certain things about the job that an outsider would look at and say, I can't believe you do that for a living, or I could never do that. And for me, in teaching, the biggest joy is when I have 20 plus students, high school students, looking back at me with that look of, you know, go ahead and teach me something, and just the challenge of interacting and engaging them for those 45 minutes. And all that interaction is really what brings me the greatest joy.
There are so many moments in the day, in one school day, that brings me joy as a teacher, and one occurs every single morning. No matter what kind of morning I've had, when I'm standing in the hall to greet the students, I have joy. Here comes God's covenant children that He loves, and I have the privilege to teach them. When I view a student in the classroom helping another student, often without even being asked, that brings me joy. When I'm in the gym and I see a gifted athlete pass the ball to a not naturally gifted athlete just to include him, that brings me joy. When I see students go out of their way in the hallways in order to comfort or befriend another student, that brings me joy.
So I think the greatest inspiration as a teacher is seeing students grow and learn and appreciate what they're receiving. And when you see students who come in who are unsure of themselves, who are, particularly those who are new to education, let's say in a high school or a college setting or a freshman, and just starting to get their legs underneath them, and seeing them mature already in that first semester or that first year of education and become confident students who really love what they're doing, that to me is a huge inspiration, is seeing that growth in young people. What also is inspiring to me is simply the content. And again, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to teach at least partially within something that you're passionate about. What do you find about God's creation, about His world, about the culture around us, about the history of this world that inspires you and gets you excited?
I find a lot of joy in seeing my former students take their place in their work in creation in the kingdom of God, whatever vocation that is, whether they are working in the field, whether they are working in the office, whether they're working as a mother in a home, to see them taking their place as a Reformed Christian.
Outside of parents, few people have as much impact on a young person than teachers. And I go back to dropping my first child off at kindergarten, and to pull up to a Protestant Reformed school and drop that little 5-year-old off and see him walk up into the building, it gave me great confidence and peace of mind to know that I was sending him to a Protestant Reformed school where the teachers loved that child and would watch over that child and would teach them in the right way, the way that I would teach them or want them taught. I get goosebumps just saying that right now. But when you have a love for a child as a parent and you can bring them to somewhere where you know that they will be loved and cared for, there's no greater peace than that.